That's just a coincidence.
Hey guys, we are live and welcome to a special author chat because we normally don't do them on Tuesday. I kept forgetting that this was actually going on today. It's been insane at work. But we are here today for the paperback release of In the Neighborhood of True by Susan Kaplan Carlton. And I'm so excited for this book. I thought it was really cool because it's set during the time that my mom was born. And I don't generally read books around the late 50s. So I was really excited. So, of course, as always, guys, if you have questions, toss them into the live comments below. If for some reason YouTube wants to be extremely mean to you and is not allowing you to do that, you can tweet them out to me on Twitter, DM me. You can toss them onto the post on Instagram or DM me there. You can ask your questions and I shall hunt them down and find them because my phone will go off because it is not on silent. All right, so we have a giveaway with this show tonight, and we are going to pick a winner on air. So we have 2 paperback copies of In the Neighborhood of True and some swag, and they will be signed. So I'm excited.
Me too.
I'm excited. All right. So we always like to start the show off with tell us a little bit about you and your journey to becoming an author.
So I've been a writer for a long time, but I've been an author for a less long time. I started as a magazine journalist, working for various women's magazines, and always had this sort of secret, not so secret, but this desire to write YA. Some of the magazines I worked for were sort of targeted to a teen or young adult audience, and I felt like I loved that voice and wanted to stay in that world. And so maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, one of the magazines I worked for went out of business. And I thought, okay, well, this is the universe telling me it's time. So I made that transition from writing about things that are true to writing about things that I made up.
That's so cool. That is so cool. So for this book, of course, it's set in the late 50s. Why did you choose to write within that time period?
A time before I was alive, because the scene of the novel is based on a true event that happened in 1958. And so it's not, I just took that seed and then made up a world around it. But there was a hate crime in 1958 in Atlanta that was the sort of, I was going to say inspiration, but that's a weird word for a hate crime. But it was what sort of spurred my interest in that time, in that place. And from there, the world grew.
Oh, wow. That is so interesting. So, since this, of course, this is, technically historical fiction,
Yes.
how much research did you have to do to deal with being within that time frame? Because it's like I kept catching myself like when Ruth was trying to figure out what certain things were with the debutantes. I'm like, why did she just look up? Oh, wait a second, that's right. Computers and the internet aren't there yet.
Not for many years. Yeah.
It definitely makes you feel very happy that if you want to know something, I can just look it up on my phone.
Yeah, just ask Siri. Siri was better at. I think as a former journalist, that was actually a part of the writing that I loved doing, is sort of immersing myself in that world. Our family used to live in Atlanta. And it was a good excuse to go back. And I did spend a lot of time, much of the book centers around a Jewish girl who denies that she's Jewish when she's new to Atlanta. She just decides it would be easier to fit in if she just happens to not mention that fact. And in fact, it seems to be working, except there are these rumblings of all kinds of sort of white supremacy all around her. So I found it fascinating to go back. The Emory University has a great archive library with speeches that the rabbi at this particular synagogue wrote, every speech he's written. And so you would look at these these typewritten with hand scratched out marks. And I found it just very inspiring. And, newspapers from that time. And I walked around, actually went up to the roof of that temple to see what the view was like, and the old theater that was segregated. And, all those things are there. And it was great to see them, be in them, feel the air, and just sort of try to capture that.
That is so cool.
And the clothes, that was also fascinating as someone who was in a women's magazine world for a while. So I ordered back issues of, eBay is a weird and wonderful thing. So issues of Vogue and Mademoiselle and old yearbooks from that year. And, just to sort of immerse myself in what people were wearing and what their names were and all that stuff. So that was really fun too.
Oh, that is so cool. All right, let's see. We have a write-in question. Does the little pink book of etiquette really exist?
Well, I made it up, and yet when we lived in Atlanta, one of our daughters went to a girls' school and was invited to attend a ball, not unlike some of the balls in the book. And she was given a little pink book with etiquette. Who knows where that, she's not such an etiquette type. Who knows where that book is now? But so I made up the contents of that book, but there is, even in the 2000s, there was a little pink book of etiquette. And I felt sure there must have been one in the 50s too.
Let's see. Jane Carlton says it does, but it's blue.
Oh, thanks, Jane Carlton, owner of said book. Yes.
I'm guessing that's family, right?
Yes, it is. Well, it's pink in my mind.
It makes more sense for it to be pink. It just does.
I agree.
So this book mentions a lot about sweet tea, and I guess that used to be the title. At
one point, it was the working title. Yeah.
So did you dive into all the different kinds of sweet teas? Did you find yourself drinking more?
I did. And what's interesting, another thing that I found really interesting is back in the 50s, the sweet tea wasn't as sweet. That it's gotten sweeter over time. If you look at old recipes for sweet tea, it used less sugar than we use now. So,
right.
So I became a fan of the old sweet tea. The new sweet tea makes my teeth hurt, but the old sweet tea I thought was great.
I feel you there, because public sweet tea, it just tastes like sugar and water, and then with a hint of tea. I like how they make it in the book.
The worst.
Yeah, I like how they make in the book that is the way to make sweet tea. You boil the tea on the stove, you put the sugar in and then you let it cool and add ice, because then the sugar all dissolves and it's amazing.
Said like a Southerner, that's right. I was on a panel at a book festival in Boston, and the moderator said, you have a factual air in your book. And I could feel my cheeks flame.
Oh, no.
Your characters like sweet tea. I'm like, oh, well, that's not factual air. Very funny.
It's funny you say that, because I'm actually from Ohio. I'm a northern.
You're a northern now.
But I like the sweet tea. See, so the descriptions, oh my goodness, the descriptions in this are just so amazing. I mean, right when it starts off and Ruth is in the courthouse and she's up on the stand and she's, commenting on how, she's having to put her hand on the quote unquote white Bible, and she wonders if she should ask for the colored Bible. I mean, this book is just so full of so many amazing descriptions. How did you come about knowing which ones to keep and which ones to get rid of? Because I know there's a lot of books where the author has gone stark crazy with all the descriptions, and it just makes it so heavy. And your book didn't do that. The descriptions didn't weigh it down. It kept it all, well paced and everything. It just worked so well. Perfect.
Oh,
it was
perfect. Well, I think I made my character a New Yorker who moves to Atlanta. So she is looking at it all with fresh eyes. And so that was one way to kind of work in her observations without it seeming too heavy-handed, I think. And another thing, a good friend of mine who writes adult fiction, her name's Marjan Kamali, she has this great advice about details, which I love, which is if, you know, not enough details, and it's think of details like spices. Not enough and it's bland. Too many and it's just like a muddy mess. So you just need, you know, to kind of sprinkle them in now and then so that it's, you know, satisfying and spicy, but not
overwhelming. It works so well. I mean, it just paints a picture, you know, step by step, and it works so well. It was so good.
Oh, thanks.
So what do you hope people are going to take away from the story? I, for one, definitely think that, especially right now when schools open back up, this should be in like all the schools, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. It's a weird, horrible, outraged world right now that we're in. I think what I want people to take away is that it's hard to find your voice, and that there are lots of ways to find your voice. And I think, you know, some teens it comes really easily to them to be super outspoken, like the Parkland kids. You know, they're so passionate and they're so bold, but not every teen feels comfortable being that out there. And so for my character, Ruth, she struggles to speak up, and then she finds a way that's true to who she is that feels okay. And so I think I want people to find a way that feels true to them, to you know, it's like not okay to just be a bystander. You do have to find your voice, but there are lots of ways to do that. And one of my favorite lines in the book is the grandmother, she has a long way to go, and she comes a little bit of the way in the book, but she still has a long way to go. Even I imagine that she's on quite the journey. But she says to the character Ruth at the end, you know, when hatred shows its face, you need to make a little ruckus. And I think that's what you have to find your way to make a ruckus. That's what I want people to take away, I think.
Right. It's definitely hard. I mean, back in the late 50s, I mean, was that really how, you know, like being Jewish was kind of a faux pas and it wasn't really accepted?
I think it really depended where you were. And I think in this particular community, that was true. You know, that the rabbi at this temple, which is based, you know, I changed the names, but it is based on a real place. He was very outspoken for civil rights, and his congregation was kind of reluctant to join him. It took them a while to find their way into that sort of justice. And I think in the South in the 50s, and I'm sure in the North too, it's just that I researched the South more thoroughly,
Right.
Being Jewish was just another way to feel othered, you know?
It's just, you know, it was so weird because, I dealt with things like that growing up because I've been pagan for like over 20 years. And that's always, you know, something that was like out of left field. But, you know, being Jewish isn't something you really think about being out of left field, you know, because you have Jewish and Judaism and Christianity and Baptist and everything else. You know, it just kind of seems more mainstream. So it was just kind of, it's kind of something, you know, you don't really realize that, you know, 60 years ago or so, it was, you know, kind of not the norm. It was just.
I don't even know that if it was not the norm, but I just think there are people who felt uncomfortable, and there's still people who feel uncomfortable with Jews. I mean, anti-Semitism is way up, something like 60% in the last couple of years. You know, in Charlottesville, we have not the daughter who's here, but a different daughter, lived in Charlottesville during those riots in 2017, where people were walking around saying, you know, chanting anti-Semitic remarks, Jews will not replace us. So I think, unfortunately, it's still common, you know, even though it seems like we should have left that behind, but a lot of other sort of narrow-minded thinking
Right.
we're holding on to too.
It's so scary that even in today's society that people still have to hide, what they believe in, their religion and stuff like that, because you really don't know how people are going to take it. It's so crazy. You think that people would be way more accepting by now.
You would, and yet there's so many things that people are still fighting for basic rights for.
Yeah.
Judaism, just one of them.
So crazy. See, we have a couple of write-ins. I'm sorry if I butcher your name. Zaina. She says, hello, I loved In the Neighborhood of True. And yes, the descriptions were amazing.
Thank
They
you.
really were. Let's see. What are you reading right now? And what have you been reading? And what can't you wait for?
I just read You Should See Me in a Crown, which I loved.
Keep hearing people talk about that one. I love the title.
Yes, it's just...
That sounds so adorable.
It's adorable, and it's somehow also like profound, and it's just wonderful. Another book I really love, it is called White Rose by Kip Wilson. It's written in verse. And it's also a story about upstander. This one in Nazi Germany, based on the life of Sophie Scholl, who started a leaflet campaign against Hitler. And it's such a heavy topic, but she handles it just beautifully. And there's something about doing it in verse that I think makes it work really well. So those have been my favorite two kind of recent reads. What am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to an anthology that's coming out in September called Foreshadow. O-R-E Shadow. And it's a collection of new voices, kind of short stories, which I feel like we don't read much of in YA. So I'm looking forward to that.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Woohoo. Okay, let's see. In your bio, it says that you were a journalist. Do you think that you will ever use those elements in a story?
Oh, well, that's a good idea. I don't know. Thank you, whoever.
I think that would be really cool. I always tend to do that. What could this author do for a new story with, what I've read and what, I've read about them when I come up with my questions. So it's like, you were a journalist, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
For a book.
Yeah, I think I like that idea. I mean, I did, because I worked at women's magazines for a long time. I felt like I poured a lot of that fashion stuff into this book. That's actually one thing I really like about my character is at the beginning, she's very apologetic that she likes fashion. She thinks it makes her shallow. But I think she learns to see that you can like clothes and have a brain and care about the world, and they're not mutually exclusive.
Let's see. Betty Taylor says, I just finished reading your book yesterday. Great book.
Thank you.
Being Jewish and living in Central Georgia, this book really touched home. She also says, I saw the movie of White Rose, Brave Lady.
Yes.
And that you being a journalist explains Ruth's mother being a journalist.
Yes, that's right.
And then we also have a write-in from Instagram. Let's see. It says they love your cover. Was that always the cover?
It was always the cover. The only thing that changed a little bit, I'm probably going to knock over this stack here, but
it's like stay.
Yeah, stay. They added sort of more soot. This is to indicate the troubles. And I like that they added that. I think at first some people have thought my book is dirty, but it's supposed to be better.
I will state that I did pick this up and I was thinking oh man.
Oh,
and
bummer.
I was trying to wipe it off and I'm like, wait a second. Never mind.
Yeah, because I think I do love the sort of romance of the cover, but dark things happen, and so I'm glad that there's this sort of soot to kind of mar the beauty.
So what is all the depictions in this book? Because I mean, you have like some smoke behind here.
Yep.
And then what kind of flower is this?
It's a magnolia.
It's a magnolia. Okay. That makes sense.
Very Georgian. And in fact, the sort of the social event of the season that Ruth is anticipating for much of the book is the Magnolia Ball. And so that was a way to work that in there. And I think the smoke and the soot is to represent the fact that there is this hate crime that kind of rocks the city of Atlanta and makes her question, how she becomes worried that this boy that she loves, he or his family may have had a role in this crime. And it makes her, question how she can really love someone who doesn't really know her.
Right. Betty says, I have a big magnolia tree in my yard, typical of Georgia.
I miss magnolias very much.
I'm thinking of a different flower. Aren't magnolias poisonous, or no? I think that's oleander.
Oh, oleander.
Oleander, yeah.
Oleander is poisonous to dogs, I think.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Magnolias are poisonous.
It's like they're big white flowers.
They're beautiful, and like they can become, like on an old magnolia, they are really big. And
I've seen them. They are like huge. Yeah. That is insane.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have another writing question. It says, "What is your writing process like?"
Oh gosh, it's a mess.
Hey, I have seen some manuscripts from like seasoned authors. Because do you only have one book out?
No, this is my third.
Oh, this is your third. Yeah. But I think she's written 5 or 6 books, and it still looks like a mess. So
yeah, I'm
don't feel bad.
I keep thinking I should be better at this because I was a journalist for a long time and I could like really kind of bang stuff out. But I'm like a very slow novel writer, and I know I like can't outline. That seems to like not be my process, and so I just like write in circles until it's clear to me. I
feel you there. I feel you there because I have a book that I'm working on, and I try to sit down and like plot out what each chapter should be, and I'm just like, this is not working at all. I am just sit in front of the computer, sit there and type. And it's like, okay, we're just going to tell the story. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, I teach now at I call them my 13th and 14th graders. I teach freshmen and sophomores. Ooh, and yeah, no, it's awesome. I love it. But procrastination is like, we talk a lot about that because they think it's something that they're just going to move through and be done with by the end of the semester. I'm like, oh no, this is a lifelong struggle.
Oh, procrastination is the root of all evil. But how long have you been teaching?
About 10 years.
Oh wow, you are brave to do high schoolers. I have
they're college students.
Oh, okay, college. Okay,
still brave.
It's like, I don't know. Is that worse or better?
I don't know, because I've never taught high school. I think I would. To me, teaching high school sounds really fun, but it happens that I teach college. So,
okay. Don't have to deal with parents at that point.
No, every once in a while I do actually, but not very often.
Oh,
but every once in a while I do.
Ooh. Man. So do you have any other books coming out that we can look forward to?
Well, because my process is such a mess, no, but I am working on things. I have 2 that I'm sort of working on simultaneously, trying to figure out if, one is more whole than the other. And one is also set in a different time. This one, if I finish it, is set in the late 1990s in the San Francisco Bay Area around the .com era.
Ooh, I'm alive at that time.
Yeah, me too. a girl who discovers that her sperm donor father came from a white supremacist sperm bank.
Oh, wow.
So those white supremacists have lodged in my brain, and I find that I keep wanting to understand them. I guess I keep writing about them.
Right. It's hard. It's really hard. I know that I'm originally from Ohio, and I had moved to a small town with my first marriage, and I was about 6 months pregnant, and it was Halloween, and walking down the street in broad daylight was people full dressed in the Ku Klux Klan. And it's like I had never seen anything like that before. I mean, it is just, I mean, you wouldn't think that you would see something like that. It was so crazy. So what about the other one?
Oh, the other one is a dead girl story set among in the equestrian world.
Ooh.
And a writer begins to wonder if her friend is really dead.
Okay, so like with a paranormal flair to it?
No, not a paranormal, more just like the world of elite nonsense.
Kind of sounds like a little like, because if she's dead or not,
Yeah. I guess whether she's MIA or actually dead. Yeah, it's just like elite equestrian nonsense.
Oh, I thought you meant like, like this girl is like so riding horses, but she kind of looks a little off. Like
she's a little gray. Well, you know what? If I get stuck, I might do that.
It's like, yo, do you feel okay? Because you looking like you need some sun a little bit, just a little bit.
I like it. Maybe I'm thinking too on the ground. I need to elevate her somehow.
Well, I mean, if she's missing, I mean, that kind of sounds like a pretty good maybe murder mystery or something.
Yeah, I guess I had thought maybe it would be a mystery, but then as I'm writing it, it's maybe turning it into something else. Again, it'll take me a long time to figure it out. But
I don't know, maybe she got eaten by a horse.
Oh, that's awful.
Hey, they did it in, oh goodness, it was an old movie. Oh goodness, these people look like babies in this movie. It's so old. I think it was from maybe the 90s. The Brothers Grimm. And one of the fairy tales.
Yeah.
Yeah, the little, I think it was a little boy, he got eaten by the horse.
Okay, that's a good reference. I'll go back and look at that.
Creepy. Go, hey, October's almost here. Go with the creepy.
Creepy would be outside my wheelhouse, so maybe that's exactly why I should do it.
So what you said you have done 3 books. So what are your first 2 books?
My first 2 books, the first one is called Lobsterland. It's about a girl growing up on an island off the coast of Maine who is desperate to get out. And she applies to boarding schools without telling anyone in her family. It kind of rom-com-y. And then my second one is called Love and Hate, Haight, which shows it's a bad title because I always have to spell it. Set in the Haight-Ashbury of San Francisco, which is where I grew up. And I didn't grow up in the Haight-Ashbury, but I grew up in San Francisco. About a girl who is in search of an abortion in the days before Roe v. Wade, right before Roe v. Wade.
Wow.
So kind of that.
I'm gonna have to check those out.
Culture.
Let's see. I am so sorry if I am like completely butchering your name because it sounds beautiful. How did I say it before? Is Zaina, I think I said. Both of those descriptions sound very interesting. Looking forward to reading your future works whenever they come out. And I definitely have to go back and see if I can find copies of the first 2 books because those sound amazing as well.
Thank you.
We have another writing question. I love the dress behind you. Is that the one that was featured on Instagram?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It is. Yeah, it is.
So is that one of the ones that was created by the other author? I don't remember what her name is. Because I know it's another author that posted a picture of a dress.
Oh, no, this is a dress that belonged to one of my daughters. And I just, I've had this mannequin for a long time. And when I was writing a book about the 50s, I thought it just looked kind of retro. So I stuck it on the mannequin.
It's so pretty though.
Thanks.
But yeah, oh goodness, she's a seamstress for the life of me. I cannot remember what that woman's name is. That's horrible. But I think I vaguely remember her posting a picture. Let's see. Oh, here. Haha. I can probably find it here. Let's see. See, as soon as I say something now, I can't find it.
Yeah,
it was so pretty. It was so pretty. I think she's like a seamstress or something, and she's been doing like a whole bunch of giveaways and stuff with like dresses, and it's so pretty. It's so crazy, but I don't know how she finds the time to do all of those.
I'll have to go search for that.
All right, so let's see. Oh, Jane says also her terrible artwork is in the background. Thanks, Mom.
Oh yeah, that's true. It is.
Oh, I guess is that the stuff on like the other side?
Yeah. From childhood. Yep. There's a pony. You're welcome, darling.
They look very nice. I can tell. What is that? The lower one. I think that's what, a horse?
That's a horse. There's some. Yeah, there are several horses actually. Some flowers.
Nice. Let's see. Betty Taylor wants to know: are you? Do you write other books under a different name?
No, I don't. Just my name.
I think that would get confusing.
I actually have a neighbor who does that. Who writes romance. Some romance under her name and some romance under a pen name. And she keeps like Instagram accounts for each.
Right. I mean, I understand it because like working at a used bookstore, like Sherilyn Kenyon, she does paranormal romance, but then she also has a spinoff series that's YA. And some of the people that don't know, they try to like shove it all at once. I'm like, no, these go there. No, stop that. They don't go there. Well, that looks to be all of the questions for today. So we're going to do the giveaway. So Betty Taylor and Zaina, you guys won. Congratulations.
Yay.
Please, where do you want them to send their information to?
They can email me. Is that the easiest, or drop it in a DM on Instagram?
So you guys, Instagram her with a DM, and your Instagram is
Susan K. Carlton.
Alrighty. So you guys do that. You won. Congratulations. It was an amazing book.
Some swag in there.
And thank you so much for coming on. This was great.
Yeah, thanks.
I love being able to talk with you guys. Right. So guys, of course, we will not be back until Friday. Our next show is on the 10th at 5 p.m. and we are going to be talking with the amazing Alex Flynn. She is the author of a slew of books, including Beastly, that was turned into a movie, which was great. And this is her newest title that actually just came out today. So I hope you guys join us then. And we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.